Hello and welcome, yoga teachers. My name is Shannon Crow, and I've put together a video today. This is the first ever of the Connected Yoga Teacher live Facebook show. So welcome. You're watching the first video. We have a series of weekly videos happening every Monday, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. And don't worry, if you miss one, yoga teachers, then you can catch the replay. So today's episode is all about how to choose a theme for a yoga class, for a workshop, for your retreat. And I'm really excited to dive into that. Just a little bit of introduction before we get started. The reason why I do this work and offer this is because I myself have been a yoga teacher for over 10 years. And I feel like when I'm in a yoga teacher training, I have a lot of support from great teachers, the teachers that are leading a training or a workshop, and then also the teachers that are there taking it. But when I leave the training, I feel like I leave that constant support and the constant feed of knowledge and motivation to practice on a regular basis, try new things, do a little growth and looking at self. And I also feel like I leave like this constant learning. So I wanted to find a way to bring this to yoga teachers. And there are a couple of things that you can dive into. So I have lots of articles already on my website, shannoncrow.com. I'm getting ready to launch a podcast called The Connected Yoga Teacher, so that will launch on March the 4th. Natalie Ekdahl of BizChicks has given me like a boost to really put a launch date out there. Hello and welcome to those of you who are joining. Hi Sean. If you want to type in where you are today in the comments below, that would be great. So also the Connected Yoga Teacher has a private Facebook group for yoga teachers. So even if you're in a yoga teacher training about to graduate, or if you've been a yoga teacher for a long time, it's a great place to connect with other yoga teachers. So I feel like that's one thing. When I leave a teacher training, I feel like I'm kind of out in the wilderness on my own. So I'm excited to kind of foster an online community. And then I know that even there's a meeting between two teachers online via Skype tomorrow. So Rosalind and Nina, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. So for today's theme, getting into choosing a theme for your yoga class. And this might be a yoga class that you're doing. So if you're thinking like, oh my goodness, I have to take notes, you can take notes if that's the way you learn, but also you can listen, and I'm going to provide an article that kind of summarizes all of the notes as well. So whether you're leading a class, a workshop, or a retreat, and whether that class is a drop-in or registered session, these things you may want to choose a theme for. Now, I don't want you to feel like you always have to have a theme. So sometimes you don't have to have a theme, and sometimes you don't have to share with your students what your intention for the class is. So maybe you're doing a class and it's all about balance, and that's your intention, and you're not really sharing that at the beginning, but there's a sprinkling in between. Hello Sheila, welcome from Woodstock. So I do definitely want to provide some resources for looking at theme ideas. I think it's great to take other people's theme ideas and definitely filter them in through your own teaching, your own experience, and then make them yours. But I want to back up a little bit before we start even picking the theme. So a couple of things to keep in mind, and I do more work around this in my consulting business with yoga teachers. Defining your niche. So defining, and there's lots of ways to do this, I'm sure. I kind of have a system, but I'm sure there are other ways and other systems out there as well. So you want to start to look at what are your skills, what are your passions, what are you curious about, and what are you already an expert about. And you might, that word might be scary, so not to worry, it's scary for lots of people. But what do you already know about? What can you already do? And then what are you curious about? What would you like to learn more about? So an example for me on this was I recently did the 5 koshas, and I knew nothing about the 5 koshas. I'm really interested in yoga philosophy and learning, but I didn't know about them enough myself. So I took one every week, did a little bit with it in my practice, learned about it, did some research, and then did it. So that's where the curiosity piece comes in. You don't have to be an expert to do it, but you do have to put the work into learning it. So then also defining, so once that's step 1, is to kind of define who you are as a yoga teacher. And it's taken me a long time to figure out what I really love to teach and learn about. The second part of that is your student. Now, I don't want to say that yours is first and then your student is second. They kind of weave in together. Your ideal student, that who you teach to, in other businesses is defined as your avatar. That is the person that you really want to think of who's coming to you already, or who would you really like to see in your classes. So for myself, I've done the work of really defining who this is. I work with other teachers in doing that as well. There's lots of online resources that you can also find to define your avatar. But finding out who that student is. So for example, if my ideal student, so one group of my ideal student is women with pelvic health issues. So I definitely would not theme a class around handstands for those women. So I really keep that in mind. I know that seems really obvious, but keeping that in mind. So it's who you really want to be teaching to, what's your niche, what's your passion, what's your curiosity as a yoga teacher, and then who your student is. And then how are you helping this person? So in what way are you serving this yoga student? And remember that you can help this person in a unique way, because each yoga teacher has their unique style of teaching. So students gravitate towards you because of your personality in some way. They connect in some way, and they return because they connect in some way. So how can you help them? So I'll go back to my answer again. Really simple example is if I'm teaching yoga for pelvic health, I know that I can help women to understand and to learn about pelvic health. That would be one, so I've done a whole class theme on that, like a 4-week pelvic health theme. And then to start to look into the details of it. So this does help, and these can be switched around in their order as well of the details, so that I don't want to say that this is like number 4 on the list now. It's probably how it's going to show up on your list, but I won't put numbers for a reason. So the calendar, looking at your calendar, or just the calendar in general. So if you teach every week, once a week, then it's good to know when are your students showing up, like what time of day, what day of the week, and then that might help you define the theme that you choose. So for example, if you're teaching a restorative sleepy class, it's probably not ideal to do it at 7:15 in the morning. So that will play into it as well. I like to look at the calendar because it helps me pick my theme. So for the 5 koshas, I looked and there was 5 weeks, and I thought, ooh, that would be perfect time for the 5 koshas. 5 weeks, we've got it. So that may help you if you're doing a registered session, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The location of where you're teaching, so these details might start to come in as well into what your theme would be. So if you're teaching in a gym, and hats off to those teachers that are teaching in gyms, because it can be a little bit challenging with noise, and I have a real soft spot in my heart for teachers who are sharing yoga in not the most serene locations, because it makes it accessible to people and it brings people into yoga. So thank you for doing that. But you might want to think that a yoga nidra or a restorative or a really contemplative theme might be more challenging. I'm not saying it's not possible. And then once you have kind of all of that list in mind, so you've defined what you want to teach, kind of a style that is your style, your ideal yoga student, how you're helping them, the details like your calendar, location, the time, maybe even how many props you have, then you're going to start to look at like a simple overview. So if you can, try and make this one page. And I was thinking this morning of how I can make like a template of one page, but I'd be curious. If you can come up with a one-page template, for sure share a picture in the comments below. But a simple overview that's one page. So say, for instance, and I'll use an example that I'm working on right now. So I do a gentle yoga for hips and shoulders. So that is the theme for the whole session. And then I do like to have individual themes for the classes sometimes, or an intention for that class. So layering it on there a little bit. But a simple overview so that I can look on one page, okay, what are we going to be focusing on each week in this 3, 4, 6 week session, whatever you're doing. This really helps to map it out in my own mind, and then I know for students, if they're asking me a question, then I'll say, don't worry, we're doing that next week, or we're going to focus on that next week. Hello, Christian. Welcome. I'm so excited. Okay, so that's the simple overview, the one page, and then to do some research and to filter that in. So maybe you've gone to a class, or you've taken an online class, or you've read about a theme, and then you're excited about it and you want to try it. I would say definitely don't worry about feeling like you're going to be copying someone else. You're going to take that theme, it's going to be yours once you share it and you teach it. I would caution to not try and teach it the way someone else has taught it. It typically makes you feel like more of an imposter teaching something. I know, because I've done it. And when it feels like those aren't really my words and it's not really my experience, it's harder to teach a theme. So filter it through, and the best way to do that is bring it into your own practice. So, and sometimes this comes up randomly for me. So I might like use a little card deck that I have that has words on it. So I really like I like this deck of cards. I don't know if you can see it. It's the Chakra Deck by Tori Hartman. I can try and remember to put a link in the comments below, or if someone finds it, for sure, put a link in. And sometimes I'll just pull a card randomly out of that deck and then see like what word comes up. And doing that for my own personal, and then if it really resonates with me during my practice, I might feel like I want to share it, and I'm excited to share it with my yoga class. So that's when you know a theme is, you've got it, when you're really like thinking, oh, there's so much here that I'd love to share. And then do some more research. So we're pretty lucky this day and age, we can definitely research online. I would give a caution to researching something online. Even today I was trying to see how many sutras there are, and I found a couple different answers online. So one person said there were 196, one person said there were 194, and I don't know. So I wouldn't want to go and share that with my yoga students until I knew how many yoga sutras there were. So that's where the research part comes in. So it's great to get, and books are the same. I don't want to say that it's just online. Read different books, and then question it. Really question it and filter it through for yourself. Like sometimes I'll look online and I'll see like you know, if I search for top yoga poses for knee issues, and then I think, well, this doesn't feel good in my knee at all. So that's where the research comes in. It might be anatomy research, or it might be research in your own body. Okay, and then the next one for choosing your theme is, or kind of working on this theme, is making sure you advertise it. So you've put all of this work into all of these steps, and it's great to let people know this is what this theme or this set of classes or this one class is going to offer you. So that can be as simple as the week before saying to students at the beginning of your class, hey, next week I'm really excited because I'm going to be offering this. Or maybe you post it online, or maybe you make a poster of it if it's a registered session or a retreat or something coming up, to really let people know this is what it is, and this is why someone like you might go, and this is why it's important to define your ideal yoga student. That even comes into play with the photos that you choose. Oh, thank you, Sheila, for posting the link. Sheila's posted the Chakra Wisdom cards. Thank you. Yeah, so there we go with advertise. That's a whole other topic, and we do have a week where we go into kind of doing graphics, thanks to Sheila. That was her question another time. Okay, so then weaving that theme into your class. So you've done all the planning, and you're there at your class, or you're doing your class plan for that day. I think it's really great to have a class plan and then to be ready to throw it out the window almost. But for me, I like to jot down a few things. So if you're thinking of the beginning of your class and you write down what the general theme is, and when you introduce that to your students, I would say plan on doing 3 to 5 minutes of talking. So you guys have been really good. I'm looking at my clock right now, and it's already, we're getting a little past the 15-minute mark. So that you knew that you were showing up for me talking about something. But if you were coming to a yoga class and I was talking this long, you might start feeling like, I just want to do some yoga. When does that happen? That's what I came for. So a theme can be really small, where you introduce it, and it's maybe you talk for 3 to 5 minutes, and then you sprinkle it in through the class, and then you end it. If you're not sure how to do that yet and you're a beginning teacher, you might introduce a theme at the beginning, ask students to think about it throughout the class. Maybe you hit one middle point, one little pose, and then you conclude at the end with something that's along the lines of the theme. So that's how you can get started on it. And to write out those key points. So for instance, if your theme was balance, you might have a quote about balance that you finish with. You might have a balanced posture in the middle, and you explain why you really love this one pose for balance, and then you might have something at the beginning where you're talking about, you know, balance. We can be thinking about balance on and off the mat, and how does the word balance resonate for you. And then also, I just want to add that when you're taking this kind of one-page note, so here is my general way I do this. I do 1 page of the overview of, like, this is the overview of the whole. I like to do registered sessions, so here's my overview of the registered session, and then a different page for here's my overview of this class. It is really nice to keep it to 1 page. I can't say that I always do that. Okay. So I think that's it in terms of how to choose a theme. Now, I've gone a little bit further in giving some inspiration around theme, and I want to give some examples for that. So dividing the theme up, or dividing different types of theme, is what I've found to be helpful here. So if you first think of, and these are in no order at all, so you can also write in your divisions. Once we start going, you might get to see what they are. So for instance, anatomy. So you guys might type in the comments below, like, here's a good anatomy theme. Any ideas out there? They can be really specific, like, a body part, right? Or a really specific muscle or muscle group. So hamstrings is very popular. Psoas has become more popular. In case you guys aren't familiar with psoas, it's spelled P-S-O-A-S. Psoas. Core strengthening has become really popular as well. We have a Facebook Live that's going to talk more about core strengthening, so for sure tune in for that. So that's anatomy, and you can think of many things. Like you can think of, so for instance, mine is hips and shoulders, and I love to do, that's one of the things I love to teach is hips and shoulders. So kind of the four corners of the body. But you might just decide to do like neck and shoulders today, or we're going to do some yoga for our eyes, or any place in the body. You might talk about the bones specifically. So I love anatomy. I feel like the body's pretty amazing. We're learning a lot about the body, and we can just bring that information to our students even more. Physiology is another thing. So it might be like yoga for arthritis, so something that's going on in the body. I don't want to really say condition, but some people might say that you have a condition or an ailment, but it could also be yoga for pregnancy or yoga for new moms. So just physiologically what's going on in the body. Yoga for arthritis, yoga for restless leg syndrome. If you guys are interested in a yoga series for restless leg syndrome, put a little comment below like, yeah, I'd love that. And that will remind me to put the link in for, we have done, Kim and I of Mama Nurture, oh, hi Maxine, have done a restless leg syndrome yoga thing, flow, that's what that would be. So then another one is philosophy. So this one I do love, and it is not a strong thing of mine. So I don't know all of the Sanskrit names. That's what I mean about that. I'm learning all the time. So 8 limbs, 5 koshas, the Yoga Sutras. So I'm, like I said earlier, I'm not sure if there's 196, 194, or a different number of Yoga Sutras. But if you imagine, if you decided to do one sutra every week, you would have an endless amount of classes to do just on that. The chakras is really popular as well. So anything that is yoga philosophy related. And then lifestyle is another idea here for, say you have yoga for runners, or what other examples? Yoga for athletes, out of office. So I didn't like, let's leave the office and come and do some yoga. If you do chair yoga and you go to a senior's home, I know Maxine is watching and she has done that. I know Eva as well at MetaWave has just done a chair yoga series. So this is for a specific group of people that have a specific lifestyle. And then you might do something that's more pose specific. So you might want to work up to a peak pose, or a group of poses. So it might be poses for the hips, or you really want to work up to do an arm balance or a more challenging pose. Yoga style is another popular one. I know that yoga teacher up our way here did like the Bikram sequence, but in her own way, and I know that there's a lot of controversy right now in the yoga world around Bikram yoga. But I love that she took the sequence, Harriet, this is you that I'm talking to, and brought it into classes that were not hot classes, and she has a very kind way. Oh yay, Sean, yoga for writers. That is a good one. And I hope that Sean offers that. He's very good at both things. So that's definitely lifestyle. Writers are their own people for sure. Other teaching, so bringing this in at our studio, Tone Studio and On Sound, Diane did this with the yoga, I think she called it yoga for wholeheartedness or wholeheartedness yoga, and she brought in the teachings of Brené Brown. So bringing in something else. I know the Four Agreements has been done in the same way. The David Tree School of Yoga uses the Four Agreements. So bringing in some other thing. Oh yeah, Ayurveda and the elements. So those are other teachings. Chinese medicine that way as well. Oh, I wanted to go back to specific yoga styles. So in Kundalini Yoga, there's the Kriyas, and they're very specific how they're put together. So jury's out on if you would need a Kundalini Yoga teacher training. If Sataram or any other Kundalini Yoga teachers are listening, then you can type your comments, your thoughts on that below. I'm a certified Kundalini Yoga teacher, and I feel really comfortable teaching the Kriyas, but I know, thank you, Sean, for putting the link for the wholeheartedness. Then you'll get an idea of how Diane made a whole 10-week series on that. What else do we have? I just want to look at my notes so I don't forget anything. So intention, and you might think, well, what's the difference between theme and intention? I'm going to leave that up for you guys in the comments as well. But again, as I said at the beginning, you might have an intention, but you might not even fully share that with your class. It might sort of be your intention. Or you might think, well, you know, I really, in this next 4 weeks, I really want to get this group of people comfortable with meditation. So you might start with a really short meditation, and you're not even telling them at the beginning, you know, we're going to grow our meditation practice, or maybe you are telling them if it's more of a theme, like learn to meditate for people who can't sit still or something. The holidays, the events, the times of the year. So this can be a lot of fun. I was reading about one teacher that does a Halloween practice, and they do it blindfolded, and they play spooky music. You can see if that fits your, I don't know, I teach a lot of people who feel like they're being really gentle with their bodies, a little less adventurous, and have some trauma. We can get into that in another discussion. Trauma, most of us have some form of trauma. So maybe Valentine's Day, like one that I love to do, is nurturing self-love, or sometimes partner classes. Yeah, and then lots of teachers do like around the time of the solstice. So that's a lot of fun as well. Other modalities bringing that in. So Pilates, Thai massage, writing as well. So Sean already said yoga for writers, but like a different modality, a different way of doing things. So this could be other teachings, but then you could think, well, maybe it's a different way of moving, like Qigong, and you might need to look at if you're going to bring in an expert, or maybe you know about it already. I'm just reading. Oh yeah, Sean just wrote that in Portland, Oregon, they dress up. So sometimes that can be a lot of fun. And I've seen also like wear green on St. Patrick's Day. And it can be as much as you know, dress up. And how surprising is that for your students when they show up Halloween and you're all dressed up. I just had a funny vision of that dinosaur all dressed up dancing. Okay, so other things are, say something that really inspires you, like a quote, a word. We already talked about word, just picking random words. I say random, but words with lots of meaning for you. Maybe there's music that has a lot of meaning for you, or a mantra. So you can really look at the meaning of a mantra and dive into that. Okay. Oh, also, I think I kind of touched on it, bringing in an expert or a guest to talk about something. So maybe, and we talked about having like the talk at the beginning of your class short, but if people know that they're showing up for something and there is an intention for it, so say they know that they're going to show up and get like say a talk from a holistic nutritionist at the beginning, and you're going to talk all about food, and then you've organized this, that's getting into more of a workshop, and then you do some yoga, and then maybe you make some food at the end. This is where it switches over from being a class to a workshop, so it's just more time put into it. But you may have an expert or a guest. So a good example of that as well is in prenatal yoga. In Mama Nurture, we often tell teachers, bring someone in, like a doula. And some of you yoga teachers already are a doula. So Natalie, who teaches at Tone Studio, is also a doula. And so she could do an expert guest talk, and she could let students know, okay, today we're going to talk about diastasis, or we're going to talk about nursing your baby, or that there are billions of other topics if you're working with a specific group. So, and the other thing is around intention, it might be this key thought. So today I was talking with Barb Elias, who helps me with kind of, she's this coach for my life, basically. And I use life coach. I don't know. It's a wonderful thing for me to have, and I can hardly explain the work that Barb and I do right now. But looking at, she said something today to me, and she said, you can do small little things, work small little muscles, and she wasn't talking about my actual physical muscles, but I knew what she meant, and have big results. So that is a key thought. So that might be the thought behind a whole class. So you might be getting students to make really tiny movements and notice how it can make a big difference. And you might also use an object to theme your class. So often I use rocks, a little bit of grounding, especially in meditation, or it might be like a blooming flower, or a flower that's already in bloom, and to have an intention around that in some way. If you can think of any other themes or kind of theme categories, I would be sure to add it to my list. I thought it would be really fun, actually, if we start compiling a list of themes. I don't know if we can put it in the comments below. That would be fun. So if you think of a theme that you've either used, or you've been to a class, or you just thought that's fun, or it sounds crazy and you would never do it, put it in the comments below. I'm also going to post, there's a link for, it's called 100 Yoga Class Themes, and it's by Yoga Teacher Resource. Now you do have to sign up for their mailing list to get this list, but it's a nice pretty little list. And then there's another one, there's about, I think, 40 creative yoga class themes, and that's by Karen Baginski. I found that online as well, and those are fun to go through and kind of see, okay, what are other people doing for their themes. So I want to make sure that we've gone through all of my notes. If you guys have any questions, let me know for sure as I look at this. Oh yeah, combining themes. If you're going to combine two themes, like say you want to do front extensions and having an open heart, so a little more of the intention behind it, but then also poses. I think it's nice to make that clear, especially if you say to students, okay, we're going to do focus on having an open heart, and then you're just talking about front extensions or back bends the whole class, then they might start to lose that. Yeah, little bites only is one of the notes that I put, so don't try and teach all the sutras in one 75-minute class. Break it up into little bits. Oh yeah, and then choose the things that go along with that theme. So if you've got a theme and it's restorative and it's grounding and you really want to look out to the nervous system, let's not be popping them up into handstand in that, or doing breath of fire. So choose the things that go along with it. Remember that you don't have to have a theme, and please remember that you teaching the theme and you teaching this in your own unique way is why your students are showing up. So yeah, that is our week 1. Next week, make sure to tune in because we're going to do the contraindicated poses for prenatal yoga. So I've been getting lots of questions lately on that. That's why I'm doing it. It's a little bit of my Mama Nurture work. If you're not already on the Mama Nurture mailing list, that's how you get that list. If you want to get it this week and you can't wait for next week's talk, we're going to expand on it a little bit more. Then you can go to mamanurture.ca. That's MAMA nurture.ca, and that is kind of our breakdown of list of contraindicated poses during pregnancy. But we will for sure get into more discussion and more modifications next week about that. Thank you to everyone who was able to show up live. If you then have questions later, you can for sure post them below when I get this written down in paper, because I know some of you love videos and some of you would rather have this all written out, like give me the links and the details of what you said in written form. That's easier. I will put the link below. I think that's it. So if you're not already a member of the Connected Yoga Teacher private Facebook group, for sure pop on over. If you're a yoga teacher, we'd love to have you there. Yeah, and I'm just excited. So happy Monday, everyone. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about themes in the comments below.